Did you start already?
Well, we've been talking about that shirt. What color have we got on today, sir?
It's like a cross between orange and pink or something. I don't know.
Salmony from over here, I'd say.
Yeah. I like it. I feel spring is in the air.
It is in the air.
Yeah. But with the different colored lights here in the studio that impact, man, they do a great job. This is really, Levi was talking about how cool their setup was. But the light changes that. As you move throughout the room, your different shades, your chameleon, if you will. Yeah.
Well, we're still in February.
Yeah.
But you told me last week a storm was on the way.
Mm-hmm. That is true.
How'd that turn out?
Well, I'll tell you, it was a real mess. We had, of course, they got the snowplows back out, and the kids missed a little bit of school, but nothing we haven't seen before. Nothing like the blizzard of '77 when everyone was stuck at home watching Perry Mason.
Yeah. Do you want me to turn the ringer back on so I could possibly take another phone call or ditch that idea?
Did that lady ever call you back about the job offers that she had for you?
She was probably upset with me for putting her on the podcast.
Yeah. How do you think you would be as an employee clocking in and out at the factory?
I would really do well with a good boss.
Okay.
If I got clear instruction.
Yeah.
And it made sense to me.
Okay.
I would be very good.
The best employee.
I don't know about that, but I would be coachable. I would receive the instruction. I would have a harder time if I was asked to do things that didn't make any sense to me.
I see.
That would be tough. I would still try to accept it as much as I could, but, start the old timer here.
Okay.
Ben's stepdad, Dan, was our coach in Little League, right?
Okay.
And he would have this analogy where he would say, there's some players I've got that would run through a brick wall for me. You would also run through a brick wall for me, but first I would have to explain to you all why it makes sense, what's through the wall, why we're doing it, and then you would do it. It's just a different thing, and I kind of think he's right.
You got to be coached different.
Maybe, but I am coachable.
Well, I'll tell you, speaking of a great team member, we've got one in the building today. Maybe.
I know. All-timer.
Yeah, maybe also a record holder for the furthest travel to be on the podcast. Is that right?
Levi has come from Des Moines.
Yeah.
You're up against Eau Claire, Wisconsin. Now let's get geography going.
I think I touch further.
Yeah, I think on the map.
Yeah.
Ben will tell you, geography is my forte.
A little farther west, not as far north. I'm trying to work this out in my mind's eye here. Yeah, you might be. Okay.
Well, Levi, welcome in, man.
Thank you.
Yeah, congratulations. Thanks for coming in. So,
why do you always have to point out how far they came? Is it a way to give appreciation for coming all this way? That's what it's up to.
Well, they usually use my air miles account for it, so it's more just saying thank you for what I'm going to be able to go to San Diego this year.
Helping line your pockets. Yeah, I got it.
By the way, for any attorneys to watch it, that is not true. But if Delta Air Miles would like to send us a sponsorship, we're always open to that. Delta Air Miles. Exclusive stay, exclusive travel. Hey, man, so I have no idea what their corporate pitch is.
I think it's Sky Miles, but
I'm really close.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, anyways, man, welcome in.
Thank you.
Introduce yourself. Tell us who you are and what you do at Village Caregiving.
Yeah, so my name is Levi Yamen. I'm from Des Moines, Iowa. I am the executive director for Des Moines, Iowa, and Omaha, Nebraska.
Wow. Okay, cool. And so you are from Des Moines. Were you born and raised in Des Moines?
Yeah, I've literally lived in a 10-mile circle my entire life.
Wow.
Not sure if that's a good thing.
No, I think it's great. Yeah,
What about in your college years?
I actually didn't have college.
Oh,
I went
really?
straight into sales. I was kind of a family business insurance, so I turned 18. I got licensed to start selling insurance the week I turned 18.
That's right.
Yep.
Man, you've had a tremendous amount of success. It goes to show you that college education can be overpriced, as everybody in the world's finding out these days, isn't it?
Yeah. I'm trying to think. This just hit me. I have as well lived in a 10-mile radius. I'm 8 miles from my parents' driveway is where I live right now. Levi, there's a whole world you and I could explore.
Very, very true.
When this podcast is over, we're leaving. Okay.
Let's do it.
Okay. I'm letting that process right now.
I know when you say it out loud, it's kind of like, oh, wow, that's a small radius. But
What is your favorite memory of your mom and dad from when you were a little kid?
Oh my God. I have to say this, by the way. I called my parents on the way down here.
Yeah.
And to the studio today. And my mom, because I never called them in the middle of the day, but I was in the truck and I knew I had a busy evening. And so my mom answers the phone. Typical Brenda, watching this mother. Hello. She answers with, "What's wrong?" And I'm like, "What? Nothing." And she's like, "Is Danielle and the kids okay?" I was like, "Yes." And she's like, "Well, you're calling in the middle of the day. I just assumed something had to be wrong." I'm like, "Nope, just calling to see how you guys are." Go throughout the story. She's like, "What are you doing?" I was like, "I'm heading down to the studio to shoot a podcast." And before I hung up the phone, you know what she said?
I love you.
"Tell Jeff I said hi."
Oh, even better.
I've heard there's an abnormal obsession with the parents, and I've listened to the podcast before.
Yes. Well, Grandma
Jeff's
Jo, Jeff's mother, is a huge fan of the podcast. My mother loved when Danielle, my wife, was on the podcast. So
Some co-love from the families.
it's fine.
Well, hello, Brenda. Thank you for passing along that hi, and thanks for delivering the message. A lot of people say they'll do that, and then they don't do that. It's a real pet peeve of mine.
Yeah. Well, my mother would tell me about it if I didn't. So,
Right.
you got to meet Brenda.
Yeah, she's
Over the
fantastic.
holidays. Yeah, you got to.
I met Bill a couple different times now, but that was my first time meeting your mom. She was really nice, sweet lady.
Yeah.
Really liked her a lot.
I've heard a rumor that Aaron is the favorite podcast host from Jeff's mother, apparently.
Oh, for sure. That's for sure. Right, and he should be. I give that award away. Okay, since you take any question I ask and just say whatever you want, regardless of what I ask. Let me ask you then. What's your favorite memory of your mom and dad from when you were a little kid?
I think it's mainly like experiences we've had. It's not necessarily a specific. We'd spent a lot of time in Colorado as a family, like going through the mountains and on a motorcycle and camping, and like those kind of memories stick out to me.
Wow, that's cool.
Yeah, it was like the family time we spent together out there.
I got mine.
Okay, let's hear it.
So my dad drove this huge red truck, this big Ford Dually, a big red truck, okay? And I remember my mom backed her car into the side fender of Dad's work truck, and it was bright red. I can't emphasize how bright this truck was. And I remember my mom got out after just destroying the side of my dad's truck, and my dad straight face looked at her and said, "How could you not see it?" I just remember as a kid, I'm like, I don't know, 10 at this point. I mean, that was like Chappelle for me. I laughed so hard because he wasn't mad. He was just like so confused. This thing is the size of a house and you just backed through it. How? It was fascinating.
That's pretty good.
Yeah.
Okay, I'm sorry. I've derailed. Let's focus on Levi.
Yeah.
Memories?
What's your favorite memory of Levi?
Oh, yeah, no, that's easy.
We kind of go back a few years.
Yeah, we do. So my
That's actually not that far.
yeah.
No.
So
I was getting ready to say, really?
one of my favorite memories of Levi is when I had a conversation with Levi one Saturday morning. I was on the front porch of my house. It's early Saturday morning, and I'd messaged him, was like, "Hey, this was before he joined the company." I was talking to him about joining. And I'm like, yell at me at some point. And he's like, "Oh, I'm up. I get up before my kid gets up, and I usually run down to this little coffee spot." Blah, blah. So he's hanging out on his porch in Des Moines, Iowa. I'm hanging out on my porch in Ironton, Ohio. We're just a couple guys having this conversation. And I just remember, like, our lives were so similar. Like, we both was kind of like waiting on the kids to get up. We both was having a cup of coffee. We're both just trying to figure out life and the different things that we were talking about. And I just remember hanging up the phone and being like, I don't know if I've ever talked to someone like me. I don't know if that's a compliment or a derogatory statement, but take it how you will. But I just remember getting off the phone and I'm like, I just like talked to myself in Des Moines. I don't know, it's so weird, but
That's a great feeling.
I very clearly remember that. I was sitting on my back deck. I was talking to you. We're literally doing the exact same thing, and it was nice.
Yeah.
Isn't that a cool thing? That's right there. And, Levi, you know this if you've had that moment and you've talked about things, is a really deep thinker, philosophical guy. That's why I always enjoy the conversations with you so much. But just being able to have that moment, you're 1,000 miles apart, but doing the exact same thing and sharing that experience together, and just being able to just revel in that. That's the word for it.
Reveling. Mm-hmm. People don't revel like they used to.
We can bring that word back.
Yeah, I think I plan to. I'm going to use it a lot.
You should.
Yeah.
But even sometimes you can have that thought whenever you're upset or you're having a disagreement with a family member or something's gone wrong. In that moment, sometimes it's okay to just be like, you know what? We're just both alive at the same time, doing the same thing here, and I revel in that.
I'm reveling as we speak. Earlier today,
I learned this from my buddy Kevin, who I call Yoda. He's my Yoda master.
He's like a prophet.
Teaches me these things. Yes,
I got you. Levi was talking earlier today. He stopped by the office. He was up in the operations suite, and we're up there hanging out, just kind of talking, and we're kind of talking about just daily things in home care and running an office for Village Caregiving. And he was sharing some of the challenges, and we don't have to get into those things, but some of the things that the in his own head, and am I performing, and I, the right thing to say in that moment to any director that's having these self-doubts is like, oh, dude, don't worry about it. Like, you're killing it. You're doing great. Don't worry about it. And I wasn't going to lie to him because I have the exact same fears and anxieties. And I was like, dude, I'm just going to be honest with you. Like, this is maybe not the answer you want to hear. I have those exact same thoughts, and I struggle with those same things. And I would have sent the same email you sent. Like,
we were reveling in the same thought.
Yeah,
honestly.
it was like, yeah. Well, yeah. I mean, if you want to hear everything's going to be okay, I'll say that. But I'm just being like, I have that same worry too. So you're fine. Like, it's just life. And no, it's odd like that.
It was actually, I don't know, it was on my side nice hearing that, because it's like we're different. You've been here for a lot longer than I have, different roles, but like similar mindset, and it's kind of like the same thing. You're sitting on the deck doing the same thing I am. Nobody's immune to having those feelings, and there's comfort in, I don't want to say pain and misery. That's the wrong word, but there's comfort in having people go through the same motions, the same, scary thoughts that you have your own.
I think that's why like podcasts in general are so popular. People hear like-minded people say things, and it kind of reassures them, like, all right, I'm not insane, or I'm not crazy, I'm not paranoid, I'm not on an island. Like, you hear things. I know occasionally I'll hear like a Facebook reel or an Instagram reel, and I'm like, oh, okay, so I'm not the only one that thought that or did that or whatever,
100%, man. Yeah. That's my wife's podcast, the Lilas podcast. I think that's why it's had the success it's had, because they talk about mental health issues and different things, and the whole connection is, okay, I'm not the only one going through this.
Yeah. Well, that's some high level reveling we just completed there. I don't know if anyone saw that or not.
Another great time to revel is if you're ever just in a conversation with somebody and they're going on and on about the most like mundane, uninteresting thing you've ever heard in your life. Like, and it's just minutes long, but it's super important to them.
Yeah. Best
story you ever heard. And you're like, wow, okay. In that moment, that's a good time to revel.
Really?
We're both alive. We're able to have this moment together, and then give them a compliment of like, wow, that's really fascinating that you're that into that. And it kind of is. I mean, honestly, like, it is fascinating that person is that interested in that subject. Maybe it's not the thing for me, but it's kind of neat that they find that interesting, and then I revel in that moment.
Wow.
Yeah, I'm being serious.
You can appreciate how much they appreciate it.
Sure, right.
Yeah.
Otherwise, we're just going to be sitting there bored, cranky. Man, that's not a good... You can choose to appreciate something about this moment.
Yeah.
I revel in it. Shout out to Yoda.
Kevin,
Yoda. Yeah. He knows who he is.
Okay. Well, okay. It was more for the listeners than for Kevin. Could we have your Yoda on one day here on the podcast? Would you share him with the world?
I would love to. I don't know if that's something that he would do, but I would. That'd be a good time.
We could take it to him. Then you don't really even have to have consent, depending on what state it is. We could just start talking to him and record it.
I really like talking to Yoda because he's the only person that routinely asks me, like 70% of the questions he asks me, my answer is, I don't know.
So there's that. Levi, Jeff and I and Danielle and Sarah, shout out to the spouses. We were recently at a restaurant, and on the other side of this restaurant, they had live music.
Okay.
Do you remember the name of the band that was at the restaurant with the live music? This was the 70s and 80s rock concert that we impromptu attended.
Yeah.
Dragon Eyes, I think, was the name of the band.
Was it?
That was what the drum set said, anyways.
I don't know, but it was like some hair metal type stuff, which isn't my normal thing at all, but I was reveling, and I reveled.
Oh, he reveled hard.
I got up there, I was fist bumping the lead singer, dancing. This is in a place where no one else was doing this.
thought
I
you were
just
the
don't
number one
care.
fan of-
Yeah, there
don't
were a couple people like eating during it. A couple people were, I don't know if they were asleep or not. It was not in a room much different than this room, but we went to the restroom. We were actually leaving the establishment, and we were going to the restroom before we drove home. And as he walks in behind me, he says, "Hey, Danielle and Sarah's going to go over and check out the band." And I'm like, well, this won't last 30 seconds, you know? Well, 2 hours later, we roll out of the concert after they finally took a break in the music. But now that was some reveling that occurred. There were some people there that was enjoying themselves.
It was a pretty good time.
It was.
And that band wasn't too bad,
They
were
weren't awful. No.
Okay. What kind of music are you into?
I'm a wide variety kind of guy. I listen to a lot of blues. I listen to like folky, like Chris Stapleton style stuff too.
Okay.
I listen to rap.
Yeah.
I grew up in a country family. My dad was country music in the truck, you know, at night. That was our.
We're the same person.
But
Let's see.
long lost brothers.
What's your favorite movie?
So
I know this answer, actually.
you do know this
Oh my
answer.
It's not. I forgot, but I wanted to see if it matched also.
There's no one has ever picked my movie.
Do you
as their
remember
favorite
my
movie.
favorite movie?
Yeah, Big Fish.
Nailed it. Yep.
Wow.
I've got a memory like an elephant.
The whole birthday thing, that was
It's insane. I mean, cool.
I've made a pledge recently, and I upheld this in Point Pleasant the other day. I'm not doing this again because I'm going to get one wrong. So before anybody asks me in this room,
Yes.
I'm not answering the question. And it's not because I don't know. I promise. I just am not doing this game anymore. I'm going to get one wrong and hurt somebody's feelings.
I was going to ask, but
See, I'm not.
my feelings won't be hurt.
I'm just telling you no.
Yeah.
Anyways, what's your favorite movie?
Four Brothers with Mark Wahlberg.
Ooh, that's pretty.
Okay. Number one, the studio audience is everyone. This is a universal laugh, and I'm not okay with that.
They were so polite though that literally everyone covered their face. They covered their face to laugh.
It is.
Is that worthy? Okay, don't you stop.
If he
talking.
says Big Fish,
Is this worthy of being anybody's favorite movie? I've never seen this.
I
Nobody's
have-
seen it.
I have
Nobody's
seen it.
You have seen it. What's your take, Austin?
I've seen it.
Okay, he saw it on TV.
Saw it on TV. Was not impressed.
impressed.
Let's see what Rotten Tomatoes gave it. Go on. Let's.
Oh, well, okay, that's unfortunate. So Tony recently had a town hall where, and he's notorious for doing his icebreakers on the town hall, but I think this round was, what is your guilty pleasure band?
Yes.
And what answer did you give?
So mine was, it was Rancid
Okay.
and Dropkick Murphys.
Okay.
So I grew up in I had a weird background, country music and punk rock.
Yeah.
But my brother, I kind of, you follow the lead of your older brothers. I'm the youngest of three. And so my oldest brother was really into punk rock, and that was kind of a guilty pleasure. I never knew a ton about the stuff, but I liked the music, and
Yeah.
yeah.
I'm going to assume you're laughing because of his punk rock days and not because of what Rotten Tomatoes has said about
best
my
movie
Well,
favorite
I can
movie.
tell you about your favorite movie ever. Four Brothers. Certified rotten. Okay, here's a few of the comments from the top critics. Swiftly dissolves into a litany of brutally sadistic acts knotted together by a feeble whodunit plot. Number 2, an over-violent and under-sincere story that strays from justice past revenge and into mindless vigilantism.
Sounds about right.
Number 3, this is one of the most painfully paint-by-number screenplays I've seen in ages. Every cliche in the book gets thrown at the screen. No twist constructed, and obvious familiarity goes unturned. Number 4, it's rare that you catch an acclaimed mainstream filmmaker dropping all pretenses and giving in to the desire to make pure pulp. I could go on. That's your favorite movie. I think we better check it out.
Boy, hit me hard next time, why don't you?
I know what it was. He was kidding.
Yeah.
Yeah, what's your real favorite movie?
Look,
It's probably the worst. I am a Wahlberg fan. He's a cool dude. That's probably the worst thing he's ever made.
that is so unfair.
Not that
For
he
the
made
fact
it.
that you haven't
Worst thing
watched
he
it.
ever acted in.
Yeah, the fact that you haven't watched it and you're giving that type, you could buy into the storyline. It's very believable.
It sounds awful.
There's a fight that they do on a frozen lake that is just unbelievable. I'm not even a violent movie guy. It's a great story. Okay, I'm just going to stop. Never mind.
Are you sure you're still comfortable with being the same person?
I was kind of thinking in my head. I'm not feeling too great about that.
Yes.
I'm not going to lie.
We've turned it on him.
If he would have said Four Brothers, I would have been a little freaked out because no one has ever said that movie.
First person in the history of movies, too, like that.
Yeah. Well, anyway, so that I think that says a lot about both of us. So you're the youngest of three children.
Yep.
In the Des Moines market. You alluded earlier to the fact that your background was you came up through a family business. Your parents were business owners.
So it's actually kind of funny. Like we started out as kids. My family owned a janitorial business.
Okay.
So for many years as kids, I worked evenings after school. We'd go do office cleaning, and that was every night till I was like 18 years old.
Okay.
My dad later in his life got into insurance. My uncle's an agent. So he went into insurance. Good career to get into. And that kind of became the family thing. Like that's, I was kind of like, well, that's what I'm going to do. I'm going to go into sales, and this is what I'm going to do with my life. And I didn't plan that, but then when they're doing it, they're successful at it. I thought, let's give it a shot and go for it,
And so you come out of high school, you go into the insurance business. Your uncle, I remember you saying your uncle was very successful at it. You guys had a good book of business, and you had your last name was associated with the agency, correct?
And that was later down the road. I did actually start with some non-family in the insurance field and then moved into with them. Yep.
And so we actually had Sean Forney on the podcast not long ago. And Sean is in insurance and actually is the agent for a lot of the coverage at Village Caregiving. And afterwards, we had the opportunity to have Sean up to the operations room, and we were just discussing insurance, what led him to it, as far as sometimes we have folks from the insurance world that interview with us, and it's helpful for me to understand what the challenges are of their industry, why it may be beneficial if they come over to a company like Village Caregiving, or what keeps people in the insurance business, just those sorts of things. I learned a ton about it. What lessons did you learn in that industry that you've carried over to Village Caregiving?
I think a lot of it comes back to just treating people with kindness. Like in a sales field, when you're dealing with people, nobody wants to be pushed or told to do this, buy this, be a certain way. And I think with this, a lot of this job it's taking care of people. It's being kind to people. Insurance is at the core, looking at people's necessities. What do we have to protect? Your home, most expensive assets, your cars, your life. And so like we're protecting those assets, and we're taking a look at their needs. With that, it's a different product, but we're still taking care of people's needs. We're going through, and people have these activities they need help with at home. It's finding what those needs are and then filling those needs with the right services.
Yeah. Awesome. Is what you do at Village Caregiving, do you feel that is a type of sales, or is it more of a type of education, or is there a difference in those two things?
It's not a hard sales. You're providing services to people who need services. So you're not, in the sense of how insurance was, you get into some big corporations and it's sell products to people, even if they don't necessarily need it. It's like, let's push this product this month, or this product this month. With this, it's a lot of people have the same needs. Their health conditions may be different, but it's finding the right need and the right fit for, like, with the right caregiver who has the right experience for, maybe it's moving somebody around the house or helping them with specific daily activities. It's just a matter of, it's not hard sales. It's really just a way to help people. That's, if you look at it from that aspect, it's a better mindset with something like this.
I got you. So, obviously one of the best recommendations that you can have is when a customer or a client recommends our service to someone they care about, right?
Yep.
And so to me, good idea of when a director really loves the company is when I find out that their friend or their neighbor or their family member works for the company as well. I care so much about Village Caregiving and trust that, you know, that was when my wife came over to join the company, right? She came after I did. And that's like, it never even was a hesitation to me that this wouldn't be a good place for her to be because it's a great place. And so you have a story about your mom coming over, right? Kind of having some caregiving opportunity. And what was that like when she went to the client's house? What kind of phone call did you get?
It was funny. I had the client called me the next day, and you know, I didn't tell the client ahead of time that my mom's coming. I didn't want it to be like, hey, my mom's coming to help you guys out. You know, I didn't want it to be a weird thing, but they called me the next day after my mom had told them, you know, she was my mother, and they didn't let me know onto that. And they're like, we had the worst experience. This lady was awful. I'm like, they're like, we're just kidding. She was fantastic. And I'm like, oh, thank God. This is not what I wanted to hear, you know? How am I going to fire my mom, you know?
Well, could you do that with Grandma Joe? If you got to complain on her, Grandma Joe, bad at the nurse thing, get her out of here. Would you call her up or would you just have to?
I mean, it would depend on the severity of it, I guess. I would try to do the right thing, both by the client and my mom. It would come down to some factors beyond what you just laid out.
I would definitely not. I'm always silent with Grandma Joe.
I would mention it to her and talk through it in a nice way.
My mother, her and my dad work at the same place. They're both retirement jobs. They both work for the local school system. My dad is a bus driver. My mom's a bus aide. Not on the same bus, though. They're very specific about that. And mom was telling some stories about her at work one day, and I had to wonder, like, my mom as an employee, can I associate her with anyone at our company that how would my mom be as an employee? Because she asks a lot of questions. She wants to know the why behind the house. She's inquisitive. I just try to think like, oh, my mom's boss today is in there like trying to figure out like, well, Brenda, this is why we're doing that today. So
that's because your mom is smart.
Well, I didn't say she wasn't.
That's right.
Are you trying to get me in trouble with Brenda?
No, I was just complimenting her.
Mom Jeff started it. So let's get back to you, man. So we know what your background is. We know you're at Village Caregiving. For someone that is anticipating right now in Village Caregiving, Fort Lauderdale, I'm just going to keep naming these places. They're going to open Village Caregiving Fort Lauderdale, and we're talking to a person that's been in the world of insurance for 10, 15, 20 years, and they're trying to think about coming over to be an executive director. What advice would you give that person? Does it work? Can you make the switch? What does that look like?
I won't lie and say that's not scary at first. You know, you're making for me, I had an entire lifetime of one industry, you know, like my identity was associated with insurance. I saw a thing recently. It was said that don't be afraid to start over. You're not starting over, you're starting fresh with experience. And so you can take the things that you've learned in insurance and sales, and this can apply to really any background. But for me, it's if you care about people at a core, you know, if you're using logical decisions and making decisions that are for people's best interests, whether that's insurance and trying to help them out, they translate really well into this industry. You may not feel, and myself too, that sometimes there's imposter syndrome. You know, I've been an insurance agent my whole life. What am I, you know, this is not an industry I'm super familiar with, but you really do catch on to it quite quickly. It's just if you use common sense, ethical reasoning with every decision you make, you're going to do well at it, and it's fulfilling too. You know, it was scary for me to make the change, and still sometimes is. You know, I'm 6 months into a role that I had 18 years of experience in my past role, and so it can be a scary change. It's been one of the most fulfilling changes that I've made in my career path.
Awesome.
And so for somebody who's looking to come over, I mean, talk to you guys. You guys don't lie about what you're telling us is going to happen. I remember having conversations with you about like, what's the day-to-day look like of this job? You know, what is the roles? And it's exactly how it was described. You know, I've heard people say like waiting for the ball to drop, you know, but it's like, it truly is like, if people can make the choice to make a change and it's something that fits, I mean, I encourage everybody to make that choice.
Yeah.
I agree. Now, you know, it wasn't always like that for me, but the company now has grown to a point where it's a national company. It's really well established. We've been around long enough with a track record, and testimonials like the one you just gave are not uncommon. Like there's now some proven history here to where I've pivoted to a position where if you're offered a job at Village Caregiving, I can say this honestly, and don't mean it arrogantly. I just mean it dead honest. Like, you're crazy if you don't take it.
Yeah.
Wasn't always like that. It used to be more like, gosh, I can't believe they left their career path to come here to something that we all believe in, but they don't know that it's going to work out or not. That's a really cool thing.
Yeah.
Even still, though, it's a leap of faith on some level, right?
Yeah.
Man, I'm glad you're here.
I'm glad I'm here.
Thanks for giving us that chance.
It was, I like to pretend like it was not something that I was, when we had the conversation about coming over, I was excited about it. I was nervous, and I had some talks with my wife, and it got to the point where like insurance for me wasn't something that was fulfilling me. It was, it got to, you're starting to sell these products and you're selling things to people that everybody can use insurance, but you can also oversell things that people don't need. And it just felt like came something like a forceful position, and that's where this is just, it's a very different mindset coming from that sales background. And that's something I'm still working on because I've got a very like metric driven brain for how I look at numbers. We've had that conversation. Like, yeah. I'm very metric driven, and it's a different type of growth and it's a different type of pace. But I don't know. I couldn't recommend enough for people, and I feel proud to be a part of it.
That's cool. And then it's not for everybody. So I say you're crazy if you don't come. I mean, kind of just in the sense that it's clearly at this point a thing worth trying. Yeah. It might not turn out to be the thing that fills your cup, and that's not what your purpose aligns with. That's fine.
Yeah.
And anyone that's ever left the company, I sincerely wish them the very best. I will help them at the next place any way I can. But it's nice to be at that point, so that my imposter syndrome doesn't have to run wild, right?
Yeah.
That's a real thing too.
I was recently talking to a director. He's been with us for about the same amount of time, about 6 months. And I called him just to see how they were doing. And we had this conversation. And about midway through, I'd asked some question about their experience up to this point. And their vocabulary in our industry was phenomenal. I mean, you would swear this person's been in this industry for 15 years. And I knew where they came from. They had no background in this and had acclimated so well. And I complimented that. And they said, do you remember what you told me when you first met me? And I was like, well, I mean, I have kind of a normal spill that I give, so I can get pretty close to it. But, and so I kind of told them about what you said, the day-to-day would be like. And they were like, the times that those things happened, and I kind of thought like, he said these things would happen and I would be okay. And they were like, it took a couple weeks of going through those challenges. And it was a startup office, and they were struggling to try to get things. They didn't have enough puzzle pieces on the board. And I told them, like, this is going to be really frustrating because you're going to want to solve this. You're going to know how to solve it. You're just not going to have the pieces to solve it yet. And then it's just going to take some growth to make that happen. And they were like, that thank you for sharing that. It got me through some hard times. And it got me thinking, like, one of these times we're going to be on this podcast and I'm going to ask the question like, hey, what I told you in your interview, was it true? And they're like, no, you were so wrong. And I feel like, I don't know what so I've been trying to think of my answer for that when I have not predicted that correctly.
That'll be a great day.
God, it's going to be awkward.
I'll watch that.
Yeah. Future guests, don't pull those shenanigans with me. Where you got over there, man? Where are we going?
This is called Off the Shelf.
Okay,
It's a book recommendation. I've talked on the podcast a lot about Vonnegut. It's really one of my favorite authors.
It's all you talk about is Vonnegut.
Not my favorite, but I like him a lot.
I know
he's up there.
Yeah.
And so, people think Kurt Vonnegut, you're going to think Slaughterhouse-Five, Cat's Cradle. This is one that's not acclaimed quite as much, but really hilarious to me.
Okay.
And brilliant, and it's kind of dark satire comedy.
Like Four Brothers.
Breakfast of Champions. Yeah. This is my recommendation for this week.
Wow. Can I see it?
I'm not going to say anything else. No, you can't.
Just let me see it real quick.
No.
Just... Well,
we're reveling in that book.
Yeah. What books do you read? What are you into?
I'm kind of nerdy.
Okay, continue.
I like sci-fi. A lot of like for just like fun. I like reading sci-fi books, things like that. Blake Crouch is an author that I really like.
Yeah.
He's got some really interesting like takes on sci-fi. Like Dark Matter is a really cool book that I like.
Yeah.
And then I don't have a ton of time to read, to be honest, but if I do, it's going to be like something like that, or honestly, it's pretty bad, but I've read a lot of his books. That Blake Crouch is one of my favorite authors.
It's a before bedtime activity for me. It's probably my main routine in life is to read before bed. And the thing is, though, it sabotages my health goal in general because it'll lead me to not get enough sleep. If it's going really great, yeah, I'll just sit there like 2 a.m. and Sarah's like probably wanting me to turn off the lamp, you know, and that happens pretty easily. What are you looking at?
Well, I want to give them the hook to pull them in on this book, okay?
Okay. You turned right to it, did you?
Nobody saw or heard anything. Nobody lived in the area. A policeman was supposed to cruise by about once every hour or so, but he was cooping in an alley behind a Western Electric warehouse about 2 miles away. Cooping, you see, was police slang for sleeping on the job.
Wow.
That's
really well done.
Thank you. Yeah. Well,
I feel inspired.
yeah. I mean, I'll tell you, if I don't get a cut of the proceeds for what that's going to generate, and that just went to an Amazon top seller.
You get none of Vonnegut's proceeds. Hey, I got a question for you. Did you see my timer?
No.
I wonder this sometimes. How many minutes does it feel like we've been doing this so far?
17.
We're already sitting like 35.
Yeah.
I know
That's
it's
pretty crazy. That is
isn't it?
crazy. Yeah.
Time ceases to exist on here.
In the studio, it does. Impact does something here. I don't know if it's their air fragrance or the lights, but yeah, you have no sense of time nor direction.
It's like a casino, you know?
Yes. We're going to come out. It's going to be dark. The cities have shut down for the night.
And they'll have all our chips. Shout out to Impact for these slick mugs once again.
Yeah. Oh, well, yeah. You have the one today.
Okay, well, I got it.
We were one time traveling back, and there had been this casino that I'd traveled by my entire life, had never been inside. And we were referencing this, and Jeff said, well, we're actually ahead of schedule by like 45 minutes. Do you want to stop in? It's like the middle of the day Tuesday, you know? And it was a day like this, beautiful, sun shining. It was really nice. We go in, and
he doesn't have as much experience with casinos as me in the past, so he's like, am I dressed well enough to go in there? I'm like, oh, you're overdressed, pal.
They don't care. You got flip-flops and a t-shirt.
No. I don't know. I guess I was expecting a more Vegas feel, and it wasn't that at all. And so we sat down beside a lady who's playing a slot machine, and I'd never played slot machines before, so I wasn't sure. I was trying to navigate all this. And Jeff mentions the lady. He strikes up conversation with everyone. He strikes up this conversation with this lady, and he's like, something along the lines of like, you come here every Tuesday or something? And she says, well, I only come on days when it's raining. And it had not rained for several days. And we were concerned how long she had been there.
How long have you been inside of this place?
Yeah, when I came in, it was pouring the rain. I'm like,
she did. I only come here on days when it's raining. We stayed like 25 minutes and left and go outside, and it is the most beautiful sunny day. Perfect day.
Yeah. Like, she needs to get out of this place.
Yeah. Well, that's just what things happen there at the casino. We took some advice one time on betting some dogs, a dog race, from a gentleman that was very in the know on the dog racing. And he had let us know that he had come to bet one race, but that had been hours beforehand and, I don't know, 30 races beforehand. But he had stayed and bet all the other races. And Jeff asked him, he said, and we could see him down there. This guy gave no reaction. You had no idea if he was winning or losing. He was standing at the window, number one. That's a sign, I think. But the
window looking out at the track, not the cashier window.
No.
Yeah, I was picturing him at the cashier.
Yeah,
window.
sorry. Okay. I don't go to these things often, but Jeff has allowed me to have some opportunities to experience other cultures. And so I don't know what the right way to say this.
I think you nailed it. Yeah.
And so we're watching this guy throughout the evening, and every time the dogs would run around the track, we would wonder, he may have just won everything or lost literally everything.
But he's not going to let you know.
Zero. And this wasn't a guy that was dressed in designer suits or anything. He was in a hoodie and jeans. He's just a regular cat. And as we're walking away, we had one race left. And Jeff said, who you got on this race? And he said, the number 2 dog. And he knew some weirdly specific things about this dog.
This dog's brother placed in the 3rd race earlier. I mean, he was telling you stuff.
This is
He spent entirely too much
kennel
time.
owner, I know his cousin used to work with my nephew.
that litter's hot, is what he said.
That litter's hot.
hot.
Every dog in that litter's been performing. You know,
Yeah.
he had all the details.
So I go to the little machine and I place the bet that, you know, me and Danielle each would pick a dog, and typically off the name of the dog, right? That's how us professionals do it. And so we and I'm like, the 2-dog was not in our bet, but I'm like, last night, this guy clearly is in the know. So I bet the 2-dog.
How do you think this story ends? Does it win or lose?
I feel like you got played.
Let me tell you about that dog, how slow it was.
The dog was.
That dog is still running around that
He
track
hasn't made
trying
the
to
first
finish
lap
that.
around.
Nope.
Now, how the story really ends is not only did that dog not place and yield any money at all, that guy was still there when we came back up. We gave him crap about it. Like, what happened? He's like, yeah, sorry, I really thought. I don't know. That guy, he may still be there.
He probably had some odds on that, something that would make him some money off of that, telling you the dog's not going to make.
Yeah, it was a good time, though.
Well, he admitted that his bad luck was that he won that first race. And that, to the person that goes to the track a lot, that right there can sink in like, tonight's my night.
Yeah.
Except and then he admitted he lost every single race after that. You hate to see it.
I'm not a gambling man. That's why, because I pick them off their names. I wouldn't do any of the.
But Aaron on the night broke even, as I recall, right? So that's
good.
hours of entertainment at no cost.
That's a win.
Cost, yeah. So I've went back every night since then, and we've lost everything.
I've lost.
Only when it rains.
Yeah, only when it rains.
Well, man, thank you so much for coming in. Thanks for coming on the podcast. Thanks for being just a tremendous guy. And maybe, you know, my Iowa twin. A lot of people could say that. If I could just get you on the Mark Wahlberg.
It's like minus the movies. Let's.
Yeah. It doesn't sound like we read the same things or watch the same things, or you do photography. I can't use my camera on my phone, but in every other way that I can think of, we're basically the same human. So,
Danny
twins.
DeVito, Arnold Schwarzenegger.
I love
Exactly.
you both. I say, you know, I joke around for 40 minutes and then I say something serious at the end. I really mean it. You're a real great guy. Pleasure to be around. Levi and our buds. He's been to my house for dinner.
Yeah.
In my home, where my daughter gave us both a fashion show that night, as I recall.
That was funny.
Yeah. So, yeah, thanks for everything, bud.
Thank you, guys.
Yeah.
well, yeah, man. Thanks. Well, we end all of them with cheers. So, no reason to be different today.
All right, gents.
Cheers.
Cheers.